OM Systems has just announced 3 exciting new products today, and we were fortunate enough to get to try them out before announcement. We are so happy to present to you the new OM System products. Here's going to be a quick overview of the 3 items that they just announced. OM System OM1II, the OM150 to 600 millimeter, and the new and improved OM9 to 18 millimeter. The 2 that I'm personally most excited about are the OM1II and the 150 to 600. Let's get into the OM1II and what the new features are. Now right here I just have the box because I'm actually filming this whole video on the OM1II right now. And part of the reason I'm doing that is because there is new autofocus for this camera, including AI tracking. I'm testing it out. I've got a monitor over here so that I can make sure, but everything is tracking. The AI software for human tracking is supposed to be able to kind of identify what a human is, even if you don't get to see the full face, which is something that is being integrated into newer cameras now. And so this is a big step for OM Systems because this is supposed to help you a lot with portraiture. OM System is mostly known for their excellent wildlife portability, this, that, the other, but the autofocus tracking on this camera, especially for people, pristine. We have seen OM Systems begin to take the rebranding of Olympus very seriously, and with that comes releasing things under OM System instead of Olympus. But this is more than just a rebrand for this camera. They've added some really important features, one of which is that AI tracking autofocus, AI subject detection, and it works supremely well. I've tested it out on birds, I've tried it on an airplane, and I'm trying it in video, in 4K video right now, and it's continuing to track my human face. This OM1II has kept some of the things that the brand is really well known and respected for, like the incredible weather sealing. It's dang near waterproof, and I say that with a heavy asterisk. Please don't put it in water, but I did test it in rather wet conditions. It wasn't pouring, but it's kind of like walking through a cloud, and it is not my camera. So I was really nervous, but I know that the reputation for OM System precedes itself, and so I didn't have as much worry with this camera as I would if it was a different camera, because that is what OM's foundation is a lot of the times, is the weather sealing and the weather resistance of this camera. Overall, structurally, the camera is very similar to the OM1, the original. All the buttons are in the same place. It's got very similar hand feel. Beyond the rebrand on the outside, most of the new features are built inside. A new feature for this camera is a live graduated ND filter. That's a mouthful, but what this means is that you can apply a neutral density filter on just a portion of the image, and you can see it and its effect that it'll have on your picture as you're playing with it. And the reason that I think this is so important, especially for a brand like OM System, is because historically graduated ND filters had to be put into a holder, and those holders are kind of big and bulky even for smaller cameras and lenses. They normally come in a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter square that you have to slide in and adjust, and that can be counterintuitive if your goal is to have a lightweight camera. And so having this feature built in on top of, they already have built-in ND filters that you can use, but the graduated ND in particular is something that has never been seen before, and I found it really useful, especially if you're doing landscapes. Another new addition to this camera is 14-bit high resolution mode. Now, bitrate has to do with the color depth. Previously, the high resolution mode was only 10-bit, and so 14-bit takes it to a whole nother level. What the high resolution mode does is basically allows you to take up to an 80 megapixel picture on this camera. That's only 20 megapixels as it is. You can do it handheld if you were okay with a little bit of resolution decrease, but still a resolution increase from what the base model is. If you have a tripod, you really can take full advantage of this high resolution mode. Another improvement made to this line is the image stabilization built into the camera. The IVIS is now 8 stops by itself, 8.5 stops if you have lens sync. OM Systems has always been good at having incredible image stabilization. It does have to do with how small and compact it is. You can really move a sensor around pretty easily in that kind of camera body. 8 stops is a lot. 8 stops is a ton. And 8.5 stops with the compatible lenses, you can handhold things that you truly could not imagine. I think that image stabilization increase is much needed, especially considered this is the lens that they announced along with this new camera. Now, I'm gonna pause Okay? OM system gets to be super small and lightweight for virtually everything. When you look at this lens, if you're a full frame shooter, it is not your standard 150 to 600. OM system, you double that to get the full frame equivalent. So this is the equivalent of a 1200 millimeter lens. Do you know how nutso that is? If you're shooting full frame, then you might be familiar with the 150 to 600 as a focal length. And you put it next to this one is still kind of smaller. This on a full frame is achieved with this on micro four thirds. So I'm gonna put these two side by side. Say it with me now. These are the same. 75 to 300 on a micro four thirds is equivalent to a 150 to 600 on a full frame. Now, what they've done is gone ahead and doubled that. This is a 300 to 1200 millimeter equivalent. I was out there taking pictures of the moon, handheld, because of the image stabilization. This is gonna be really revolutionary for OM systems, micro four thirds users. The reach is incredible. And if it wasn't incredible enough, you can still put a teleconverter on it. I really don't think I can tell you exactly how bananas it is to have a lens that gets out to 1200 millimeters. In full frame, there's really kind of only one lens that gets there without the use of a teleconverter, and that lens costs the same as a lightly used Honda Civic. Like, it is very expensive ordinarily to reach 1200 millimeter, but OM system, by bringing this into their lineup, has made it accessible for the average consumer. Obviously, we are open for pre-orders for the OM1II, the 150 to 600, and the new 9 to 18 from OM Systems. OM System has brought some of the best things about micro four thirds to fruition.